hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, I'm going to show you how to make and use a leather strop for sharpening. Now there are many different ways to sharpen chisels, knives, etc. There's grinding stones, there's water stones, there's oil stones. The list goes on, but one of the most neglected areas to maintain and keep that super sharp edge is the strop. And that's what we're going to concentrate on today. Now it's a fairly simple project, and it all starts off with some scrap pieces of plywood. Well, this project starts off with a 3/4 inch thick piece of ply. This one is 12 inches long and it's 1 3/4 inches wide. So the very first thing that I want to do, because this could be used by hand instead of clamping at a bench, the very first thing that I want to do is I want to mark a center line. Just at one end there, and we will take that same measurements, which in this case is 7/8 of an inch, and we will place a mark right there. And what I want to do is use my compass, set it for that distance, and we will mark that circle to round off that end. Just in case, if it's being handheld, it just makes it a little more comfortable. And now at this point, I'm going to take that over to the scroll saw. You can use a bandsaw if that's what you have. And we're just going to take off those corners, and then using a belt sander, we're going to sand it up to the lines. And with that done, we will center punch our hole there, or our mark that we made, just like that. And I will drill at this point a 1/2 inch diameter hole right through there, just for mounting. Just like that. At this point now, we can remove this pencil line, and all of these sharp edges, we're just going to break those with a little piece of 120 grit sandpaper. And that, boys and girls, is essentially our strop made. The only thing that we're missing is the leather. Now you can use whatever you like for leather. You can use an old belt. You can use pieces off an old couch. You can use whatever you please. Any type of leather will work. For me, I have purchased these thick leather pads. I got them from Lee Valley. I'm going to post the link down below in case you're interested in them. But let me show you what we're going to do with these. Now, when it comes to a strop, you can use it with the rough side of the leather, or you can use it with the smooth side of the leather, whichever you prefer. For me, I actually prefer to use the rough side for all of the first kind of honing, and then I prefer the slick side to use afterwards, just dry with no compound sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a two-sided strop by mounting on one side the rough side up, and on the opposite side we will have another strip of leather with the rough side down. So I am going to mount this with double-sided tape. So what I'm going to do is cut some double-sided tape that will be just larger than our piece. We're going to clamp it between two pieces of board just to let that double-sided tape really adhere to the leather. And then once we get that all nicely adhered, let it clamp up for 5 minutes sort of thing. Then we're going to trim off the excess double-sided tape. And with that, we can peel the backs off, and we will glue, or in this case tape, our strop leather centered here on our board, one on one side and then one on the other side. Once we get it on there, I'm going to clamp it up again just like we did initially, and let it set up for maybe 5 minutes, just to give that double-sided tape a good chance to get a good adhesion. And as quickly and as easily as that, you have made a leather strop. Quite possibly one of the most useful sharpening devices in your shop. So how do you use it? Well, as I said earlier, I prefer to use this rougher side of the leather. Now you can hold it in your hand. That was the whole purpose of rounding off the end. But for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to clamp it to your bench and use it. So I have the rough side of the leather faced up, and it really needs some kind of grit. And for that, I have this green honing compound. So you need to charge this leather strip. Now, some people like to charge it by using mineral oil and rubbing it in place and that sort of thing, and really getting a good even coating. The mineral oil helps to spread it around, but I'm just going to use it straight up, kind of color it on here. And once you get a half decent coating, you can sharpen your carving knives or your chisels or what have you. So let me just show you how we do that. So what you want to do is you want to lay your blade flat on your honing compound, and then you tip it up just a little bit, and you want to pull it towards you just like this and count the strokes. Do maybe 20 or 30 strokes. And then turn it over, do the same thing. Lay it flat, tip it up on end, and do the same process, the same number of strokes. Now what you want to be careful of is you don't want to run it along and then at the end curl it up, because what that will do is it will curl the edge of your blade over and actually ruin your edge. So it's not a quick process when you're first sharpening like this. It does take a little bit of time and a little bit of patience. You also don't want to put a heavy pressure on it. Just the pressure of the blade is enough. And we'll come back the other way towards us. So when you get to the end, lift straight up. Don't do this, as I said, you'll ruin the blade. And then I like to finish it off, just to give it that last little polish, by just a few strokes on the smooth side of the leather without any compound. Okay, and that's got a really nice polished edge. So that is basically the whole process. Now, if you have a chisel, a flat chisel, and you want to sharpen it or hone it using your strop, you basically take it bevel side down against the strop and with firm pressure, pull back. 20-30 strokes should be absolutely sufficient for this, and you will get on the end of your chisel a very, very fine polished edge, and that polished edge is absolutely razor sharp. Now, by doing this as well, this is not like a carving knife where you are putting light pressure. You want to get some half decent pressure underneath this. But what you could be doing is you could be curling up the back end with another burr. So just flip it over onto your smooth side of the leather and just pull it back to finish this off. And now here's our paper, and just carefully here. That's like a razor. It really, really is. Now the same thing goes for things like your pocket knife. Place your blade flat, tip it up till you just get to that bevel grind at the end, and then in this case you can see that my blade is too long or sticks out past the strop. So you pull it towards you gently, and then angle it out like that to get the tip. And you can just keep doing that the same as you would for a chisel, counting your strokes so that you can repeat it on the other side as well. Now for handheld sharpening, guys, it's pretty much the same process. You can just hold it comfortably in your hand, set your blade flat just like before. This process is the same. And then you would draw the knife just like this on the strop. Turn it over, and the same thing. And over. You just don't want to draw the blade this way because you'll end up cutting into your leather. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is that this smooth side here, if you want to use this with compound instead of dry like what I'm doing here, feel free. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just personal preference for me. But that there, I can already feel that has a wickedly sharp edge on it. Let's just try it on a little piece of end grain here. Yeah, and that's end grain poplar. Now poplar is classified as a hardwood, but it's not the hardest of the hardwoods. But even still, that knife is giving a nice smooth cut on the end grain with no tearing there at all. So it could use to be a little sharper for my liking. So I'll continue to work on it, and eventually I'll have it the way I want it. The key here, guys, is patience. It doesn't happen instantly, and once you get that edge, it's just a matter of maintaining. Either way, it doesn't take much to maintain and keep razor sharp edges on your knives, chisels, and carving tools. And there you have it. A leather strop for sharpening. Guys, I'm going to say that this is probably bar none the shortest and the easiest project I have ever posted on the channel, but it is one of the most useful. Using a strop in your sharpening could really take it to that next level. Whereas before you would have got your chisel or your knife sharp, now you can get it stupid sharp. By that I mean razor sharp. The way that it really shows if this knife is sharp is by cutting stock, by cutting wood. And basically, if you're cutting end grain and it's tearing out and it's not giving a nice clean cut, chances are your knife isn't as sharp as what it should be, or your chisel is not as sharp as what it could be. So if it's giving a nice clean cut, it's shearing the fibers perfectly, that is when you know you have reached the level of sharpening that you'd like to be at. Guys, I am no sharpening guru. I sharpen with my water stones, and I still use my oil stones. I use diamond hones, I use strops, I use compounds. I use whatever means possible to get the results that I require. But I am by no means a sharpening snob. I don't know everything there is to know about sharpening. I just do what works. And I can tell you without a doubt that this little 10-minute project is going to work for you. And guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. Again, like I said, a very short one. I'm going to post the link below to these leather strips that I got from Lee Valley, but you don't need those in order to make a leather strop. Any type of leather will do. You can use, as I said earlier, stuff from an old couch. You can use an old leather belt. You can use anything like that. You don't even really need the leather. All you need is a nice flat surface that you can charge with honing compound. It's just that the leather helps a little bit with the cushioning, and as well it holds the compound and gives a little more of an abrasive feel. The only thing that you really want to make sure of is that the piece of wood that you're using is flat. Guys, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You click the bell and then you won't miss the notifications of the future episodes of the show. It's a quick one, but I hope you've enjoyed it, guys. I hope you're going to try this for yourself. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.